All right. I believe we are live. Just giving it a moment. Just going to hop on my phone so I can see the chat a little easier. All right. And feel free to leave any questions you have. I actually had a bunch come in. Today, we're going to be talking about streamlining your blogging workflow and creating a smart blogging schedule. I know this is a struggle for many of us. So feel free to pop your questions below. And live. All right. Okay. So let us start getting into things. Welcome to this live stream. Like I said, we're going to be talking about streamlining your blogging workflow, creating a schedule for yourself that gets rid of those time-wasting tasks and also allows you to do things that actually help you grow your business, including grow your income, which is one of the most important things. Before we dive in, I do have a little bit of a gift for you. It is, often I promote my free travel blogger resource library that has 75 plus resources, all meant to help you grow your traffic, email list, and income, different cheat sheets, workbooks, tutorials, outreach, templates, things like that. But I have added my sample content plan and repurposing template spreadsheet. This is typically something that my paid members get access to, but you're going to get it for free. I added it to my travel blogger resource library. So let me pop the link to that in the chat. That's something that can help you save a lot of time because it's going to give you the full strategy in one tab. And then in the other, it's going to give you an actual step-by-step process for repurposing your content across platforms, but also in a way that helps you earn money. So here is the link to that. All right. So let's jump into the questions here. The first question that came in, how do I decide what blogging tasks to prioritize? So I recommend that you do an exercise and that you write out all of your yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily tasks. And what you really want to do is see where you can cut or streamline or automate. So just want to pull up some notes that I wrote down for myself here. You want to first cut tasks that are not helping you reach your unique business goals. And then you want to think about where you can combine. So for example, maybe long form content can be cut into short form content for social media. Maybe your vertical videos can be tweaked to be shared across platforms. Maybe the audio from your YouTube videos can be used for your podcast. Those are just some examples. You also then want to look at your remaining tasks and consider what you can automate. Sharing opt-in freebies and resources using plugins as well as AI chatbots. Maybe it is onboarding new email subscribers and customers by creating an automated welcome sequence. That's something I highly recommend everyone have, both for, again, your new email subscribers as well as anyone that purchases a product for you. It's not just they grab the product and then they never hear from you again. You want to have some type of onboarding set up so they know exactly what the next steps are, how to use this product, how to get the most from it, etc. Also sales, setting up sales funnels so that you are actually making sales of your products on autopilot. You're not having to manually do this over and over again. And then sharing new blog posts. There are different tools you can use for that. Something I like to do, for example, is use something called Smarter Queue, where I can create all my social shares. I like to kind of batch where, let's say, a new blog post goes live. Then I'm going to create a bunch of different promotional captions that I'm going to share on Facebook and Threads and Twitter and places like that. I can have different variations of the caption, different photos. I'll have the call to action, click the link, and then the tool will actually recycle the posts as well. So that's something that's really, really helpful. So those are a few tips for that. Let me just come back to my other sheet here. Now, I do have a podcast to pair on streamlining your workflow that kind of dives much deeper into what I just went over, and it has a video to pair. So let me just pop this into the chat. And it's not too long either. To streamline your workflow. But I do think step one is really looking at all of the things you're working on and getting a big picture visual of, wow, okay, I'm spending a lot of time on this task, but it's not really helping me in any way. So do I even need to really be doing that? Or, okay, why am I separately creating a podcast episode and a YouTube video? Is there a way that I can like grab the audio from the video and use it for the podcast? That type of thing. All right. Well, actually, I kind of went over that. All right, let's go on to the next question. How can I create a repeatable blogging workflow for myself? So I think there are a lot of different ways you could do this, but I'll share my personal process for this. I like to break up my month into what I call weekly sprints. So there's 4 weeks. I have 1 week that is content and outreach, focusing on creating new blog posts. And also I outreach for, working with brands, having people join my affiliate program, reaching out to bloggers to cross promote. I have a lot of different things I do outreach for. I have a whole podcast episode on that too. I'll grab a link in a sec, but that's the week I'm going to focus on that. Then I have a week where I focus on getting all the content ready for the next month in my Travel Blog Prosperity membership. That's one of my paid products, one of my main paid products. So it's going to be a big focus. Like if people are paying me for a product, I'm going to make sure that any promises I made to those customers, those are getting done. Then I have a week that I call promo planning. And how that works, where's my planner here? Well, we'll come back to that in a second. I'll explain it with a visual. And then the 4th week is overflow, anything I didn't really get to. So going back to that promo planning week, in the back of my planner, I have this messy little piece of scrap paper. It's upside down right now. That has all the months of the year listed out with my one big promotional focus that I plan on focusing on. So let's say for next month, the focus is on launching a new product. That means that the month before, so if it's for September, in August, that promo planning week would be focused on getting everything ready to launch that new product. Keep in mind, like with something like launching a new product, it's not just creating the product, right? It's having beta testers to collect testimonials. It's setting up the sales page. It's getting all the promotions ready. So sometimes I actually need that overflow week for that promo week. It's not always though launching courses. Maybe it is doing a big revamp of my content to help put my affiliates front and center. Or maybe it's creating some buyer intent content to help promote affiliates. Maybe it is, learning a new skill that's going to help increase my traffic, or launching a new opt-in freebie that's going to help grow my email list. Something that is going to be related to helping you grow your income, because traffic and email growth do help with income. So it's more than just like getting Instagram followers, right? You have to think about, or what I like to think about is for that promo week, what is something I can focus on that is really going to grow my business? Because that's what I want to focus on. Now, some people might be like, oh, I don't like the idea of weekly sprints. I'd rather, have a repeatable weekly workflow where I'm doing a little bit of social media here and blogging a little bit every day. You kind of have to figure out what works for you. Certain tasks and projects I do weekly. For example, my social media, I usually do on Mondays, and I do it for basically Wednesday, Friday, Monday. So that on Monday, the social share for that day is already scheduled. So it's like, if it's, let's just say Monday, June 1st, I'm going to do Wednesday, June 3rd, Friday, June 5th, and Monday, June 8th. So that I'm not kind of waking up on Monday going, what am I going to post today? That's how I like to do it. I have certain other things like I have a Monday paid newsletter that goes out, my VIP opportunities newsletter. Every Friday, I'm creating the content for the following Monday's newsletter. So I do have these kind of weekly repeatable processes too. And then you can always use a tool like Asana or Trello or Monday. There's all these different things where you can kind of plot out your schedule. So that's how I like to do it. You kind of feel out what works best for you. Another question that came in was, what should my blogging schedule look like if I only have 5 to 10 hours per week? I know a lot of people, in my membership, I hear this a lot, this problem of maybe you work a job or you have kids or whatever the reason may be, you just don't have like 20 to 40 plus hours to work on this. So I would say identify your 1 to 2 highest ROI, return on investment activities, and stick to a simple, repeatable schedule. Apologies for any sounds. I live in New York, so it's always a little loud here. Stick to a simple schedule that you can handle and automate as much as possible. So a schedule I might recommend would be setting aside time to create a product and set up a sales funnel. I am a big believer that bloggers should have their own products. It's going to give you more control over your income than just doing ads and affiliates, which are relatively dependent on algorithms. With your own products, you can really get creative with the marketing. You can have your own affiliate program or other people promote for you, etc. So that's what I would do. I would then create a content plan that gets your ideal customer into this sales funnel. And you can have these things work on autopilot, because another piece of it would be, that content plan, having it be optimized for SEO, creating pins for it. You want to get people to the content where they're going to see the opt-in, they're going to get in the funnel, and that's just going to keep happening in the background, even when you are not near your laptop. Also, you want to monetize this content with affiliates and ads, if possible. Most of us, even in the early stages, can do affiliates. I know ads, that takes a little bit longer. You want to wait till you get into a premium ad network like Mediavine and Raptive. That does take quite a bit of time, but say Journey by Mediavine is 10,000 sessions, very attainable. I have one site on Journey, really love it. So that's something I recommend. Also with SEO, you want to create pins and create a repurposing strategy as much as time will allow for you. So maybe you don't have time to create for every single platform, but be intentional and then think about what time you actually have and which platforms make the most sense. It's better to be active on fewer platforms, but create more intentional content than spread yourself thin and just sort of like have to get stuff up. Oh, I have to share something and then share something that isn't that great. Just skip sharing that day, wait till you can share. And that's also why I do like tools like SmarterQ, because of the recycling. If I don't have time this week to create new posts, it'll go to the bottom and recycle older posts. And, I get questions about that too. Like, can you do that? Do those actually get seen? I have had no issues with, I shared it the first time and it got good traction. And the second time it was seen by 2 people. It's still getting shown. And then set aside time to email your list regularly. This is so, so important. Maybe that's once per week. Maybe it's once every other week. Maybe it's once per month. I would say minimum once per month. Your email list is going to be one of your most important assets. It's how you're going to be algorithm proof. It's not dependent on algorithms. You own that email list. So do make sure that you are nurturing this group of people, that you are staying front of mind for them. When they think of your niche and what you cover, they think of you as the expert. And when they need help with that topic, they want to come to you because you've been helping them so much. The other great thing with email is you can let people know about your free content, your blog posts, your YouTube videos, your podcast episodes. You can let them know about new products you launch. You can let them know about affiliates you love. So it's a great tool for traffic as well as monetization. So that's like a simple kind of schedule you might think about, and what this might look like in terms of the actual content, like how many pieces. Maybe that's 1 piece of new blog content per week. Maybe for that post, for each new post, maybe you're creating 5 unique fresh pins, and you can use a tool like Pin Generator to quickly bulk create your Pinterest pins. I'm going to quickly share a link to that. That's what I use, and I really love it. Is an affiliate link. Generator, affiliate link. And with those pins, make sure they have fresh visuals. They're not all the same, and that you are scheduling them 1 week apart each. And think about, you have the post from last week, their pin's going to go out this week, and then from 2 weeks ago this week. So you are filling your kind of Pinterest schedule too at the same time by working in batches like this and creating the 5+ fresh pins for this one blog post. It could be your one email, and then repurposing content across key platforms. And then it could be one intentional collaboration per month, like a guest email swap. Hey, if I send a guest email to your list, you could do it for mine, and we can cross promote opt-in freebies. So you're continuously also growing your email list. And then maybe you are also updating 1, 2, 3, whatever you can do, blog posts per month, because it isn't just about creating new content. You also want to make sure that you are keeping your previously published content updated too. Yes, in terms of accuracy, that's really important, but also affiliate links, making sure you're promoting an opt-in in every blog post, really making sure the content is working for you, particularly your top ranking posts. I know a lot of people, when they have a post ranking and it goes down, they want to update it. And that's great. That is important. But also look at the posts that are bringing you great traffic. Do you have an opt-in freebie call to action in there? Are you missing opportunities for affiliate links? Do you have affiliate links in there, but they're broken and need to be updated? These are going to be really important things to make sure you're monitoring. All right. How far ahead should I plan my blog content? This was another one that came in. So I would say at least 3 months ahead, because this will allow you to get ahead of seasonal spikes. So you need to give both your blog posts and your Pinterest pins that you share promoting this blog post time to rank. And you also want to publish at least 3 months ahead of when you want this post to be live. So even a little bit more than 3 months, right? To make sure you're on top of things. And maybe you're thinking like, oh, that's so strange. Like if I'm promoting a blog post about Thanksgiving travel, I'm going to share it months ahead. Yeah, you can publish it. You can create your pins for it. And then as it gets closer, then maybe you're going to do more of your Facebook shares, your Instagram posts, and things like that. You can always too create an annual content plan, and you can always change it. It's not like you're going to create it and you have to stick with it or you'll get in trouble, right? You can always tweak things around, move things around. But the more you can kind of pre-plan, the easier it will be to save time later and know what you're going to be working on that month, know what your focuses are. And for me, like I'll have this type of plan, but then maybe a trip comes up, so I move things around. Or maybe I'm launching a new product I didn't know I was going to be launching before. And now I want to create some content that's going to attract people who would want to purchase that product. Like, let's say you decide to launch an RV travel guide to Yosemite National Park, something like that. And you didn't have Yosemite on your content plan. Well, you're going to want to get it on there, right? Because you're going to want to be attracting people looking to go to that park so you can pitch your paid product and attract that target audience. The next question, how can I stay consistent when life gets busy? I know this is a huge one for travel bloggers. I got this question a few times of like, what do you do when you have a trip come up and you have this, schedule you're trying to keep? It's hard to stay on top of things. I would say get what you can done and move what you can't do to the next week. Like I always think it's important to stay consistent. We're building businesses, but it's not like a life or death thing, right? So if you miss something, it's okay. I personally would rather enjoy my trip than spend the first like 5 days like, oh, I have to get these posts up or everything will explode, because it won't explode. It's gonna be okay. Also, work in batches to get into a flow state. Um, I find that when I do this, I'm able to get more done. So what I mean, it's working in batches is doing similar tasks all together. So instead of like writing a blog post, then creating an Instagram reel, then scripting a podcast episode, then recording a podcast episode. Like what I do, I have a podcast. I will spend a few days just scripting. Then I'll spend a few days just recording. And then I spend a few days just editing. And this allows me to work much faster than if it was like write, edit, record, audio edit, show notes. Like you kind of have to hop from process to process versus the scripting is the same process over and over, and you kind of get into that rhythm. And then do less intensive stuff that still moves the needle. So this could be things like updating old posts versus creating new ones, and then give them a traffic boost by re-promoting them. So, if you're just overwhelmed with everything going on in your life and you're like, I don't have time to create new content, but I do have some time and I want to make sure I'm still working on my blog consistently. This is going to still help you grow your traffic by updating that old content. And often it is a lot less time. Almost always, it's a lot less time. Also, create Pinterest pins for old content. Especially seasonal content does really well on Pinterest. And keep in mind, there's seasonal content like visiting Bali in summer or things to do in New York City at Thanksgiving. But there's also popular busy times for different destinations. So I feel like travel content is inherently seasonal, even when it's not so obvious in the title. So when okay, you know what? What's going to be popular in 3 months? Create pins for those posts, and creating pins is going to be a lot quicker than creating new content, and it can still help you get a traffic boost. And then pre-schedule email content. Emails are often quicker to create. I mean, I think almost always they're quicker to create, and they're so important. I know I see a lot of bloggers kind of say, oh, I meant to email my list, but I got busy. Well, if you have some time during those busier weeks, you're just trying to stay consistent, maybe that's a time you can sit down and batch create some emails that would share some tips with your audience, empower them, maybe share some links to your content or some affiliate links, things like that, so that you have that pre-scheduled. Then you don't have to worry about in the weeks to come, and you can get back that time a little bit to work on creating things like new blog posts. So let me know if that was confusing. But I feel like that's important. It's important to think about because it can be easy to get overwhelmed and then just be like, oh, I'm not going to do anything this week. And then the next week and then the next week, and you kind of fall out of the rhythm. You want to make sure you are being consistent with your business. The next question, what is the best way, or I'm going to just go back to the last thing, little asterisk, like you can take a week or two off, when you're on a trip. Not saying you can never take time off, but just don't get in the habit of a week off. Oh, the next week, I don't really feel like doing anything. Don't feel like doing anything, that type of thing. Okay. The next question, what's the best way to batch blogging tasks? So I first think it's important to figure out your own daily energy schedule. Are you someone who's really creative in the morning, but then has an afternoon slump? Are you more of a night owl? Like, when do you feel most creative and energized? Because you want to make sure that you are doing those tasks that require more mental energy during those times. So I'm a morning person. Before noon, that's my best time. That's when I'm going to be writing blog posts, working on creating products, creating email funnels, things like that. Where the afternoon, I might do things like creating Pinterest pins or editing photos and things that don't require so much thinking. And you want to, again, I mentioned this before, group similar tasks and then, group them according to that daily schedule. So I mentioned the podcast example, but, maybe if we're thinking about blogging, instead of doing keyword research and then writing the blog post and then editing the photos, you're sitting down and doing keyword research for a few different blog posts. Maybe you're looking at your annual content plan and you're doing the keyword research. And then when you move into writing, you're working on writing for a few posts. Then you are editing different posts. You're getting into that flow state by doing those similar tasks and grouping them together. I think it's Asana. They have a really good, let me see if I can find it quick. They have a great article on working in batches, and they have some nice visuals. I think it is this one. I'm going to pop this in the chat. I think this is it. And it kind of shows you how you can use a free tool like Asana to create that schedule for you that's actually like written out. It's not just in your head. It's planned out in Asana. You know exactly what you'll be working on and when. Working in batches. Okay. So the next question, how do I handle blogging burnout? I do think it is helpful to kind of revisit your why, what made you start this in the first place? What is it that gets you excited about what you do? What is it that gets you excited about what you're working toward? And I think getting clear on what you're working towards too, and how, not just like, oh, I want to grow my traffic, right? What do you want to achieve with your blog? Maybe it's, I want to lead women only tours around the world. Maybe you get really excited about that. So kind of digging into that piece of it too. Like, yes, you want to build your traffic, you want to make money, but what does that actually look like? And what would your life look like in that? If maybe you've already achieved it, maybe it's something you're working towards, but I like to kind of visualize that. Then schedule intentional rest periods and have a hard stop time. I will admit, I am someone who kind of likes to work through at least the morning. I do take an afternoon nap many days, like a quick 30-minute nap. And I get my like energy back a little bit, but I kind of like to work in long stretches, take my little nap, and then have a hard stop time. Once I'm done, I'm done. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not looking at my laptop. It's closed. I am not someone that is looking at emails at 8 p.m. I am relaxing at that point. If you are finding yourself working till 8, 9, 10, past that into the night, there may be reasons you have to. Maybe you are trying to build this while you have a full-time job, of course, but you don't want to be working yourself to the point of you have bleary eyes and you make sure you have enough left in yourself to still have that passion and that creative energy. Because honestly, if you are working these crazy, crazy hours, that might be why you have so much burnout. So I do believe in having a hard stop time. What that time is, think about what makes sense for you, but stick to it. Also, simplify your posting frequency. You want to make sure your schedule is sustainable and allows for quality over quantity, not just, okay, I need to post something. Let me just grab the first photo I see and throw it up with a quote. Who is that helping? Really make sure that that content you are spending time on is quality. And if that means, like for me, there was a time when I think I was trying to post once a day, and that's really hard on social media. So now I aim for 3 times a week. Sometimes I only get up 2 posts. You have to think about what is sustainable for you. And then again, going back to what I said in the beginning, revisit your projects and tasks to see what you can cut, combine, or streamline. If you see you're getting a lot of results from email marketing, but you've been posting on Twitter consistently for 3 months and it's really not getting you much, maybe you got to, re-examine kind of what you're focusing on to do more of what's working, do less of what's not, and then, making sure that your time is well spent in that way. And, it can be hard sometimes because sometimes people will say like post a few times on a channel and they're not getting anywhere and they get frustrated. You do have to give strategies time to, collect some data, see what's working, what's not, and then re-strategize and go back to it. But if you've really kind of exhausted all options and it's like, this really isn't working out the way I thought it was, or, I've dove into the data, I've re-strategized, and I don't think there's anything left I can do, you can move on to something else. But do make sure that you are actually, like, one thing I like to do is give monthly challenges, and even more than a month would be ideal. But it's like, okay, if you can show up every day on the platform you're trying to learn, if anything, you'll get a lot of data, and it'll probably be a very messy month, if it's your first time, but you want to see what's working, what's not, what resonates. And then you could say, okay, that didn't work, that did, and move that information into the next month's content plan and try to see if you can grow in that way. All right. Which blogging tasks should I stop doing to save time? This is going to be different for everyone, right? Like, you'll hear people say, oh, Instagram is dead, or you get nothing from Threads. And then there are people that are like, oh, I get all of my traffic from Threads. Like, it's just going to depend. And I do think it's where you put your energy a lot of the times. Like, if you're going all in on Threads, you're probably going to learn how to do it really well, versus if you're kind of just like throwing up stuff here and there. So what someone will cut might not be what someone else should cut. But I will say that doing some time tracking for a week or two to see where you're wasting time, not even on specific platforms, but it could even be doing things like, I know something I do is like checking emails, but then not responding to them. And then you have to go back to them later. That adds up. That's a big waste of time. Obsessively checking analytics. You do not need to check any of your analytics every single day. What I like to do is I set a recurring reminder once a month at the end of the month. I look at everything. I sit down. It's a big spreadsheet day of, okay, what's working with affiliates, product sales, social media, email marketing, all the things. I gather all of that data, but I'm not doing that every single day. Or another thing I see a lot of people do is kind of over designing graphics. Of course, great visuals matter, but people can really obsessively tweak these kinds of things. And that obsessive tweaking isn't necessarily leading to like tons of new traffic or subscribers, right? So do a little time tracking and try to spot where you are wasting the most time so that you can adjust. All right. The next question, I just want to see oh yeah, we do have a bunch more that came in. Okay. Where did I go? How can I automate repetitive blogging tasks? So I mentioned this before. For each task or project that you're doing regularly, just ask yourself, how can I automate or streamline this? So I wrote some examples down. You could use something like Pin Generator for creating pins. It basically bulk creates for you. You put your blog post link, you let it know how many pins you want. You could give it details like your brand colors and things like that. And it will create a ton of different pins based on your branding and the photos in the blog post. And then you can adjust as needed, but it makes it so quick. Or if you don't want to use Pin Generator, you can have templates saved in Canva that you just repeatedly use, and you swap in, new titles and photos and things like that. You can use a tool like SmarterQueue for social media scheduling. I mentioned this before. It has a lot of really good features that can save you time. I mean, having a social media scheduler in general can save you time, but it allows you to create different variations of the same caption, which, I use that most when I'm promoting a specific blog post, and then maybe I want to promote it in different ways. Maybe I want to test different captions. You can have it do that, and it recycles your posts. You basically create your categories of content, you create your posting plan, and then when you create your new post, you can say, okay, it's for this category, and then it'll just keep recycling. That means that, again, even if this week I don't make any new social posts, my social media accounts will still be active. You can also save recurring calls to action as reusable Gutenberg blocks. Maybe you find you're always adding a similar call to action for your travel insurance call out in your travel guides. Save that as a Gutenberg block so you don't have to retype it out. You don't need to find it and copy and paste it. You can just as you would, if you click the plus sign in WordPress and you look for your image block or you look for your HTML block, you're going to look for your saved block. You could also set up an automated welcome sequence for your email subscribers. I mean, highly recommend that you do this. And if you want, like most of my automations are about 7 days long, 7 emails, 7 days about. And they typically end with a pitch at the end. I might also have a tripwire. So they grab my opt-in, maybe they're shown a related limited time offer, then they go through my funnel, then I pitch a larger offer at the end. You could also, though, if you're someone who maybe doesn't have time to email, maybe you have different segments of your list and you don't want to email all of them all the time, you can create a long automation that's like a year long of your best tips and your best content. That's an option too. You could also save templates for regular outreach. So, I regularly reach out to bloggers who cover NYC travel to be an affiliate for my NYC photo tours and photo shoots. I regularly reach out to brands to collaborate. I regularly reach out to other creators who teach about blogging or who have blogging skills, and I invite them to be a guest teacher in Travel Blog Prosperity. I'm not sitting down every time writing an email from scratch. I do have a template, and then I customize it so that it's not, a blanket template, the same email to every single person, right? But certain things are going to be repeated. If I'm inviting someone to be a guest teacher, I'm going to customize the welcome to them. I'm going to let them know how I found them, how maybe we're connected. I'll say, hey, I know you're really great at Flipboard. But then when I talk about the membership itself, I'm going to copy and paste that part. I'm not going to retype out what Travel Blog Prosperity is and how it works and things like that. That's the part of the template that's going to save me time. It's just going to be repeated. So if you have regular, outreach you're doing, which hopefully you do, have templates set up. And let me quickly grab my strategy for doing outreach because I think it's really important. I think it's a missed opportunity for many bloggers, and I just call it my outreach days strategy. So you'll see that in the title here. Outreach days strategy. And what I like to do is just a full day, once per month, just outreach. And I have a spreadsheet to keep it all organized. Also, if you have an affiliate program, like if you have your own products and services and you have an affiliate program, set up an onboarding sequence for your new affiliates and have a promotional toolkit included. If you don't do this, you're going to have the new affiliates emailing you, how do I create a link? Do you have any tips for promoting? All of the FAQs, have that all answered in the onboarding, and then have the swipe copy, the ideas for promotion, the promotional graphics they can use so that it's all done. It's all there. They have everything they need. They don't need to email you for it. And then if you have products, set up an automated client onboarding so that people know what to do and when, and they get, any FAQs answered. You can also include, affiliate links if it's natural and makes sense in your client onboarding. Like, for example, when people book a photo tour or photo shoot with me, I will recommend Glam Squad with an affiliate link to them because a lot of people want to get their makeup done, and Glam Squad will come to your apartment or your hotel. So those are just a few ideas, but the sky is the limit with there's so many different ways to automate, especially now with AI and all the different tools that there are. All right. We have about 20 more minutes. If any questions pop up. The next one is, how do I balance content creation with promotion? So I would say start with an SEO optimized long form piece of content with a strong opt-in freebie call to action. The SEO optimization is going to help it rank so it continues to bring you traffic. And then you want to make sure people aren't just reading that content, but they're actually joining your email list. So the opt-in freebie you choose should also be related to the content itself. It should be also related to what you're sending in your emails and your products. And that's why, you might end up with a few different opt-in freebies if you have different sort of funnels you're doing, if you have a few main topics. So you're starting with that SEO optimized piece of content. And then you want to create a repurposing strategy. So as I said in the beginning, I have a resource for you for that. It's a full sample content plan and repurposing template. And it's just going to help you go from blog post to opt-in freebie and product and social shares and all of that. So let me just pop that in the chat one more time. And then maybe, a little piece of what this might look like could be like creating 5+ fresh Pinterest pins, creating a reel and or carousel based on the tips you shared in the blog post, and using ManyChat to create a DM automation. Like if you've ever been on Instagram and seen people say, comment guide to get my free solo travel guide sent to your DMs. That is ManyChat or a similar tool. Maybe you create at least 3 promotional social media shares for each platform that you are active on. So you do want to make sure you're not just creating the content and letting it sit there. You do need to actually make sure you are spending the time to promote it. And again, going back to like checking in with yourself each month, see what is working. That's also why I like to create different types of captions too with my social posts. It's like, oh, I'm trying this type of caption, but that's not really working. But if I add a tip in the caption, if I add a little sense of humor, like something I tested, to give a concrete example, with Facebook, everyone was saying, oh, you should do link in first comment. I got 0 click-throughs from doing that. Instead, what works for me is writing a caption, having the link in the caption, but not having the embedded preview. Instead, get rid of that and upload an image, 2 images, a few images, whatever, but not the embedded preview. That is what works for me for getting traffic from Facebook. I wouldn't have known that had I not looked at my data, right? Because I've heard so many people say link in first comment is the way to do that. Well, not based on my analytics. So you want to check in with this. So now I can do more of what's working and not waste time on what is not when it comes to promoting my content. Someone asked, what tools do you recommend for staying organized? Now, there are so many. I feel like if you ask 10 different people, they'll have different recommendations. But personally, what I use is I have my paper calendar there. I have my paper planner here. And that's kind of the 2 things I'm really looking at all day long. Then I have my Google Calendar for appointments and reminders. I use Asana for saving workflows, content planning. So I keep my content plan in there. And then working with contractors or collaborators. So I have a virtual assistant. I have a whole Asana, area for her. And we have our different sections, our different projects we work on. And I can give assignments. I can set deadlines. She can talk to me right in the different cards in Asana and follow up with questions. She can let me know when she's done and things like that. So I really like that. I also, like I mentioned, saving workflows. For example, I've launched many different courses. There's different projects that are recurring. I've relaunched my Travel Blog Prosperity membership over and over. I don't want to, when the time comes to relaunch the membership, I don't want to go, ooh, what do I do again? What were the steps I took? I just have that all saved in Asana. Or even, I make these different 30-day action plan calendars. I have one for affiliate marketing, one for SEO, one for profit planning, and then I have one that will be coming out sometime this year. Stay tuned. But each one, the content is unique, but the process for launching it is not. I'm going to outline the calendar. I'm going to create the calendar. I'm going to have a beta tester group. I'm going to create the feedback form for them. I'm going to create the sales page, like all these different pieces. I'm going to have my marketing strategy. I want to have that all laid out so that, okay, I had the SEO calendar. Now I'm launching the profit planning one. I can duplicate it and just repeat the process. So I find it really important for that. And then I use Google Drive for storage. Now, keep in mind, I keep saying Asana, but there are so many: Trello, Monday, Notion. I mean, there's so many different of them. So you can test different ones and see what works. But I like Asana and it's free. All right. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions left. And feel free. I see a question came in. What kind of tasks do you delegate to your virtual assistant? I'm struggling to stay on top of all the menial tasks and larger workflows, but I desperately need help and can't afford it yet. My virtual assistant, she does mainly my blog post updates, which is extremely helpful because, while I'm creating, well, I don't just create new content. I also do have some writers, but it is so helpful to be able to work with her on blog post updates. She also will, I'm doing a big project right now where I'm replacing all of the free license images on my site with deposit photos I've paid for, or original images, to avoid copyright issues. I had one last year. I see so many bloggers having issues with these free license images, and it can be very expensive. So she's helping me with that. She does some social media help for me, some kind of like engaging with people that comment on our stuff. And she handles our Pinterest totally. She creates the Pinterest pins and manages that. And the other main thing she does is she creates that monthly report at the end of the month for us about what did well, what didn't. Something neat, like with affiliate marketing, and I don't have her do this, but it's something maybe like in the future I would have her do. Right now, we're kind of maxed out on time with the allotted time that we're working with. With travel payouts, they have, I think it's called delegated access, where you can delegate like partial access to your virtual assistant to have them create affiliate links for you and stuff like that. So that's something else that could be cool. I know a lot of bloggers want virtual assistants that can help them with formatting, and that includes affiliate links. So that's another thing. But I would say, well, 2 things with hiring. Like, I wouldn't hire for something until you know how to do it yourself first. Maybe, like not a developer or something like that, but like something I see often is like, oh, I want to hire for Pinterest. But if you don't know how Pinterest works, it's going to be much harder to see if they're doing a good job. Or SEO. People hate doing SEO. They want to hire for it. At least have a solid grasp on how it works so you can see if they're making mistakes. Otherwise, you might hire someone to do it. They can tell you, oh, yeah, I'm an SEO expert. I've done XYZ. They could be lying, or they could just be overinflating whatever. You need to be able to check their work, at least in the beginning, right? So that's just a tip I would say with that. So yeah. But I'm fortunate. I have a great virtual assistant. I've hired, most of my writers and virtual assistants have come from people who have guest posted for me. And when I see that, like, wow, this person wrote a great guest post with basically no mistakes, I remember that because it's extremely rare that that happens. And I find that one of the most important things when hiring someone is that they can pay attention to detail. Even if they don't know how to do Pinterest themselves, I can share a workflow with them. They can learn because they're going to be someone that pays attention to details. And then, they'll be able to kind of do it themselves. So that's what I look for. That's kind of how I've had success with hiring. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. But let me know if there are any other questions with that. I know a lot of people struggle with the hiring and stuff. And I've also hired many people that did not do what they said they would. So that's why I'm giving the tip of like, make sure you kind of know how it works too. And that especially in the beginning, you check their work a bit. How can I? Oh, okay, here we go. How can I repurpose old blog content instead of always starting from scratch? A few things. Update your top traffic posts to ensure they include important calls to action. When I have a spreadsheet from my Google Analytics, and I like to look at my top posts and work down. of, okay, this is getting traffic. I look through, does it have all the affiliate, like the bookable actions? I cover solo travel and a lot of travel guides. Does it have a section on the best tours? Does it have a travel insurance section? Does it have a where to stay section? Under the intro, I like to have a yellow box with some type of affiliate optimized call to action. I'll put an example in the chat. I think I just published a guide to one day in Tirana that has an example of this yellow box. One day in Tirana. Does it have a visible call to action for my opt-in freebie? Not buried at the bottom. I want to make sure that everyone who reads this post is going to know about my opt-in freebie. Does it have broken links? That's something to check for. Does it have the sections grouped? Something I see, and I have a ton of posts where I haven't done this. It's like a process I'm working through. If you have ads on your site and they're just automatically populating, they're probably going to break up your important sections. So if I have a where to stay section and I'm recommending a hotel, or I have like a link to click here to see top rated accommodations in Tirana, I want that all to be grouped so no ads are going to break up that text and distract people. That's really important. So really making sure that the places you already have eyes are optimized to convert. Because that's, again, I know I mentioned it before. You don't just want traffic. You want to convert that traffic into email subscribers and income as much as possible. Also update mid-ranking posts for SEO. So like if I have a blog post that's ranking on like spot 75 and it doesn't really get traffic, that's going to be hard to update. But if I have something on page 2, page 3, you're going to see a lot more boosting it to the top of page 2, bottom of page 1, that type of thing. And keep in mind too, I know people are frustrated with Google. I did notice I personally had a really nice boost in traffic from the last update, and I know a lot of other bloggers did too. So even if you didn't, I do hope it means there is some positive shifting happening. But keep in mind, Google is not the only search engine. There's DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, all of the places. So even if you're not ranking in Google, you may be ranking on, one of these other platforms, search engine platforms. Also use blog content to create opt-in freebies or products. So let me give you an example. The opt-in freebie that I've been sharing during this live stream is my free travel blogger resource library. Something I like to do whenever I publish a new piece of blogging related content. So for example, I have my Profitable Travel Blogger podcast. And with that, I create a blog post, show notes to pair with each episode. I will take each episode. I will create a cheat sheet based on it. ChatGPT is a great help with this. I give it my cheat sheet template that I use. I give it the content that is mine. So I'm not saying ChatGPT create an Instagram Reels cheat sheet. I'm giving it my tips, my content, or my guests, my podcast guests, tips and content, and we're using that. And then I'm adding it to my resource library. So now in that piece of blog content, podcast content, YouTube content, whatever it is, I can say, hey, grab access to my free travel blogger resource library. It includes 75 plus resources, all meant to help you grow your traffic, email list, and income. And that includes an Instagram Reels cheat sheet based on today's podcast episode, and that includes a UGC cheat sheet based on today's podcast episode. You can promote the one that makes the most sense. But I'm using the blog content or the podcast transcript, whatever it is, to create that opt-in freebie. So you don't have to do that exact process, but maybe you have some blog content that you can feed ChatGPT or you could use for yourself and turn it into a really high value opt-in freebie. You can also turn the main points from a blog post into a carousel or a reel with a ManyChat call to action. I mentioned that before. Or you can turn those main points into standalone social media shares with a call to action, whether that call to action is to click the blog post or leave a comment. Think about the calls to action that are going to make the most sense for your blogging business and your goals. How do I track whether my blogging schedule is actually working? Like I said before, keep a spreadsheet and review your analytics monthly, not daily, monthly, to see if traffic, subscribers, or sales or affiliate income are increasing, and adjust your tasks based on these results. Travel payouts, actually going specifically to affiliates, they have a relatively new tool called Content Analytics that has really great in-depth analytics. But even beyond that, and I am a travel payouts ambassador. I will say, if you're on my email list, you probably know that. But I also used them before I was an ambassador. They have like every travel program you could want, at least in every category: tours, hotels, etc. But even beyond the content analytics tool they have, use sub IDs to be able to track where your bookings are come from, because you might see like, okay, I got XYZ amount of booking.com referral income, but where did those bookings come from? Which posts? Are you also promoting booking.com in your social content or your email content? Are you promoting it in that box under your intro? You want to make sure you know where people are actually clicking so that, again, you know it works. So I have a few different spreadsheets. We have the social media spreadsheet. We have the content updating spreadsheet. We have the affiliate marketing spreadsheet. And I want to know, where are we seeing growth? Where are we seeing a decline? And try to estimate why that's happening as much as possible. And again, going back to saving time, if you see, well, this placement isn't working really well, but this one is, I want to make sure I go in and update my blog post so it has this placement. And then the last question that came in: how do I handle unexpected opportunities or changes without derailing my schedule? And again, as travelers, this happens a lot. The main two things I would say is build flex time into your weekly schedule to handle surprises without like sacrificing the most important things you need to do. I personally like to leave Friday as a flex time, or like I was saying with the weekly sprints, that last week is just an overflow week. So I can always move things to that week if needed. And I also just think being okay with moving things when they need to be moved, just knowing like everything's not going to explode, it's going to be okay, and coming to terms with that. But I do think not packing your day to the brim, not packing your week to the brim, saying, okay, you know what, today I want to accomplish these 3 things, and then maybe you'll have time to do some extras, but you'll be happy with those 3. Not saying, okay, I want to accomplish 20 things today, we're off to the races, So I think that can help a lot with not feeling so overwhelmed with your schedule and feeling like, oh, I didn't get anything done. I mean, I am very guilty of making long lists too, and then being like, oh man, I didn't get much done. But then when you sit down and think about what you got done, it's actually quite a lot. So those are all the questions that got sent in. Let me just see if any last minute ones came in over here. Okay, so we're going to end here. I will republish this. So if any more questions come up, just put them in the comments of the video and I will get back to you. Of course, you can always email me too if you really want. But yeah, it was great spending some time with everyone. Let me just pop one more time the link to the Travel Blogger Resource Library. And again, that includes the sample content plan and repurposing template that was created specifically to help you save time. And it's usually something that's behind a paywall, but I'm going to give it for free. Content planning spreadsheet and repurposing workflow. And it's in the free Travel Blogger Resource Library. So you just sign up for free. You'll get the welcome email with the login info. You log in and then you can find the spreadsheet in there. All right, everyone. Great chatting. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.